Hey guys, welcome back. As the very last topic of this whole chapter, we are going to study the fractional reserve system. And before talking about a fractional reserve system, let me share a story with you guys. Just in case that you don't know that I'm not always good at telling stories, but I do know a lot of stories starting like this, long time ago. And this story also starts long time ago. So before 16th century, people will use the gold for transactions. No matter people buy apples, buy fruits, buy veggies, buy houses, buy goats. So you can tell that it's not very convenient. And of course, it's not safe either. Because every time people have to have it weighted and assayed for the purity, then people will start thinking, we have to figure out a better way to solve this problem. We cannot always carry the gold to weigh it and to check on the purity all the time before our transactions. So by 16th century, they did come up with a good idea. Instead of carrying the gold everywhere, they would like to deposit their gold with goldsmiths. And then of course, when they deposit their gold with goldsmiths, they will pay a few more dollars for the taking care of their gold, which we call a fee. Now watch, it probably will look like this. There is a goldsmith. Let's say the name is called Jimmy. He is a goldsmith. And let's pick up another name, let's just say Tom, who has $100 value of gold with him. So he decided to deposit this $100 value of gold with goldsmith Jimmy. And then Jimmy will write him a receipt and say, this is a $100 value of gold that deposited by Tom. So you see, after depositing the gold with goldsmiths, Tom will use this receipt in the market as a money. Because everybody recognizes it, everybody accepts it. So you see, pretty much those receipts are the very first form of paper money by 16th centuries. Now, you see, at the very beginning when they came up with this idea, there will be a lot of people say, maybe Mike will issue $50 worth of gold with Jimmy, the goldsmith. And then, of course, Jimmy will write another receipt to Mike, say $50 of receipt. This, at the beginning, is 100% backed by all the golds that the Jimmy has. Later on, there are very few very smart goldsmiths started thinking, maybe we can make more money out of it. You know why? Because both Tom and Mike, they are not coming back pretty soon to redeem their gold. So those golds are just sitting in my vault. I'm not doing anything with it. Why don't I just take full use of it and make more money out of other people's gold? This is how it works. Jimmy has a neighbor, and the neighbor named, let's just say named Becca. So Becca one day told Jimmy, can I borrow some money? Or can I borrow some gold? And 3 months later, I will pay you the extra money for it. So Jimmy will say, okay, fine, if you are willing to pay me some extra money, definitely I will be able to loan you some. I have $150 in my vault that I can issue you. Now you understand, when Jimmy approved the loan, actually he's not going back to the vault, carry the real gold, give it to Becca. What he will actually do is write Becca another receipt. Let's just say Becca was asking $200 value of the gold. Now you see, what happened is, in the vault, Jimmy only had 100, but he write 3 receipts, 50 for Mike, 100 for Tom, and another 200 actually for Becca. In our circulation, or we say in the market, this is 350. But actually, only 150 is backed by the real gold. Not only backup, there are several other neighbors also wanted to borrow some gold from Jimmy. So what Jimmy will do is keep writing those receipts instead of giving them the real gold. Now you see, the more receipt Jimmy issued in the circulation, then the more money will be in the circulation. But still, there are only 150 in his vault that is backed by the real gold. If those goldsmiths are very greedy, what they do is they will just keep issuing the receipts or keep issuing more money in the circulation. Now, what is the potential risk gonna be? Have you ever thought, what if one day both Mike, Tom, Becca, everybody showing in front of his door and say, Jimmy, can I redeem some real gold? Now, that moment, Jimmy will not be able to do so. See, so from this story, we can get two conclusions. The first one, the banks create money through the lending, exactly the same thing. The goldsmiths issue more money in the circulation by writing those receipts. It's exactly the commercial banks. Whenever we issue a loan with commercial banks, we don't actually get a whole bunch of cash. What we do, get a check. Second, the banks are very subject to panics. When all of those people who have the receipt coming over to redeem the gold, Jimmy will not be able to do so. That is the reason we say the bank is a very highly regulated industry, no matter in the United States or any other countries. Now, we are going to talk about how actually commercial banks works and how commercial banks create money. Before that, I still would like to tell you a little bit about fractional reserve system. For one example, commercial banks have two major businesses. And of course, the very first one is accept the deposit. And then the second one is making loans or offer the loans. Commercial banks will not be able to make money by accepting the deposit, but commercial banks do make money out of the loans. So commercial banks always have a very good incentive to offer as many loans as possible to the public, which can be very risky. That is the reason the Federal Reserve does not allow the commercial banks use up all the deposit to offer the loans. Instead, certain percentage of the money or certain percentage of the deposit will have to go with the Federal Reserve. Then commercial bank will be able to use the rest of the deposit for offering the loans. This we call fractional reserve system. Now today we are going to talk about another thing. It's how commercial banks actually work and how commercial banks creating money. First thing I would like to talk with you guys is the balance sheet. When we open up a new commercial bank, or when we are running a commercial bank, there's one thing we have to always pay extra attention on. It's called balance sheet. On this sheet has two sides. The first side, or the left side, is the assets. On the right side is the liability and net worth. So it doesn't matter at the beginning of the day, or in the middle of the day, or at the end of the day. The commercial banks have to make sure the balance sheet is always balanced from the left side to the right side. Both sides have to always to be balanced. Now, the assets could be the things owned by the commercial banks or owed to the commercial banks. Say all the loans. We will write it underneath the assets. Liability is the claims of non-owners of the bank against the firm's assets. Say all the deposit. If you would like to deposit $5,000 with commercial banks, say Wells Fargo, then Wells Fargo owe you $5,000. This is their liability. They need to put it on the right side, underneath the liability. Another one is called the net worth. If you have purchased the stocks, if you have purchased the stock shares from the Wells Fargo, then they owe you the money. So this is the net worth. We put it on the right side as well. Now let's just say we are going to create a commercial bank, or we are going to build a bank from the very scratch. Now name this bank with a very funny name called Woohoo Bank. Now of course we don't have money to create a bank. Say we need $250,000. What we can do is we can start issuing our stocks and to whoever is willing to invest into our commercial bank. Now, if we do find some people willing to purchase, then these stock shares will be our net worth, which means we owe those investors $250,000. At the same time, we got $250,000 cash as our assets. After getting all those assets, we need to buy the equipment, we need to buy the computers, we need to buy the security system, we need to build the buildings. For all of that, let's just say it cost us $240,000. This is our property, and at the same time, we still have $10,000 cash that have left. Now you see, on the right side is still the stock shares for $250. So the left side equals the right side. The balance sheet is still balanced. Like we have said, the two major functions of commercial bank is accepting the deposits as well as making loans. Say we are very lucky. The very first week we have our first customer, and he is willing to deposit $100,000 with us. When the customers deposit money with our commercial bank, you see, we call it checkbook deposit. This is commercial bank's liability because commercial banks have to pay him later this $100,000. At the same time, we will take this $100,000 and put them into our own vault. Now you see our cash has increased to $110,000. Property is still $240,000. On the left side, we have $350,000. On the right side, we have $350,000. So the balance sheet is still balanced. Now, after we have $100,000 checkbook deposit, as a commercial bank, we will be very excited to offer as many loans as possible so we will maximize our profit. But wait a second, remember what I told you? Commercial banks are not allowed to use up all the checkbook deposit to offer loans. They will have to deposit certain percentage of it with the Federal Reserve. They can use the rest for making the loans. Let's just say the required reserve rate is 20%. Then that means we have to deposit $20,000 with the Federal Reserve, then use the rest of the $80,000 for offering the loans. In the reality, a lot of the commercial banks will put more than they are required with the Federal Reserve because for the extra money they deposit with the Federal Reserve, they can always call back. So let's just see. In this case, no matter what the required reserve ratio gonna be, we decided to put all the cash with the Federal Reserve. Now you see, we got zero cash in our vault, but at the same time, we have $110,000 with the Federal Reserve. This is our assets. Now you look, the balance sheet from the left side still equals the right side. The balance sheet is balanced. And let's do a very quick practice. Oops, I'm sorry. Now let's just see. If the commercial bank was required to put 20% of the checkable deposit with the Federal Reserve. So if we have received 100,000 checkable deposits, then of course we are required to put $20,000 with the Federal Reserve. But as you see, in the reality, this commercial bank decided to put over $110,000 as the extra reserve. So the difference between the two we call excess reserve, which is $90,000 that commercial bank can always call back for their own use. Now here you just need to understand a few things. How we calculate required reserve. We use the checkable deposit times reserve ratio. How we calculate excess reserve. We use the extra reserve, subtract the required reserve. The difference will be excess reserves. Now, here, if the person who has deposited $100,000, he came back yesterday. He decided to withdraw some of his money, so which means he would like to clear a check. Now you see, we used to owe him $100,000. Now because he needs to get $50,000 cash back, the checkable deposit from the right side becomes $50,000 because we decreased the checkable deposit. At the same time, we will have to call the Federal Reserve, say we need to get $50,000 back. Now you see, our Federal Reserve becomes $60,000 now. Now you see, on the left side, we still have $300,000. On the right side, we have $300,000 as well. The balance sheet is still balanced. Now, here is the tricky part. We would like to make some loans. Offering the loan for a commercial bank may be something a little something new for you, but just to think this way. If you would like to get a brand new car and you don't have that much money, so you would like to negotiate with a commercial bank, say Wells Fargo. And the manager at Wells Fargo will say, okay, what's your job? How much you make? And what's your social security? And what is your credit scores? So after checking onto all the documents and notice that you are really qualified for this loan, the commercial bank actually will issue you a check instead of give you a basket of cash, right? So when the commercial bank or the manager of commercial bank writing this check for you, actually he is creating the money in the circulation. Because writing you a check with $50,000, he directly handed it to you, which means you have $50,000 at the commercial bank now. See, the checkable deposit from 50 increased to 100. And of course, you don't get this money for free. You have to pay the money in the future. And this is the assets for commercial bank. We write it on the left side, means you owe the commercial bank $50,000 and you are willing to pay them back. You see, offering the loan is the money creation. On the left side, we have increased to $50,000. On the right side, because we have written him a paycheck, so checkable deposit has increased another 50 as well. The balance sheet is also balanced. And for this, once this person who issued the loan have the money, he can always using the loan. He can always cash the loan. That is the very last step. Now, what I need you guys to understand is, when the manager at a commercial bank, when he writes the check to issue the money, we call this is money creation. And of course, when we pay the money back to those commercial banks, then the money will be destroyed. So far we have talked about the money, US banking system, and the money creation. So as always, if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you. I see you guys next chapter.